Well, we
All
are
righty.
live.
You are tuned into a broadcast of Transparency and Merit. My name's Joe. I'm here with Brian. I'm Joe. I'm JP or Joe, either one.
I'm Brian or Mr. Midnight Movie, whichever one you want to go by. I used to do that, but
I
now
used
I'm
to be a Jewish producer.
yeah. And you know what? I used to I am going on a diet, and I'm trying to reverse my type 2 diabetes. That's my biggest challenge right now is, and I'm challenging Kings of Talk, and I think I might challenge a few other people to a weight loss challenge to help us all get better and more healthy. And I want to reverse both my diabetes and my high blood pressure, and I hope to do that by eating correctly and by moving a little bit more. And I've gotten better, but I'm still not at
I've
that.
noticed the changes. I've noticed the changes. You eat better. You eat your snacks are not as disturbing as they were. They, you're kind of you're working your way up towards a more balanced diet, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and that right now is the main goal, is to
And
work my way
the
up.
big sacrifice, of course, is sugar and salts, starches, and carbohydrates. Those are because they taste so good.
Yeah,
And let's face it, we we are not given food anymore. We are given a lot of genetically modified food. We're given a lot of our diets are not whole like they were probably in generations prior to ours, and it's a sad thing, but it's still something you can kind of do the workaround with. It costs a little more sometimes. It's harder to keep stocked because a lot, organic foods, that stuff that's not riddled in preservatives, it fades, it deteriorates and spoils quicker. So yeah, it's not easy, man.
you know, yeah, it certainly is not, and we're going through all kinds of struggles right now in this country. We have a pandemic, and it basically we're locked. A lot of the things that we like to do, we cannot do at the moment. Uh, and literally, I have no control over that. I mean, and also, I'll say this. Like, I was going to go into the political situation, but the truth is, I have no control over the political situation. I have no control um, how a political situation turns out. I have no control. Like, I mean, there's this whole thing going on in Afghanistan right now. Lots of turmoil. It kind of makes me sad seeing it. But at the end of the day, I mean, not we don't get too many listens to begin with, and right now, I think that the biggest thing for people to maybe to find out is the issue of hunger and the issue of diet, and it is a struggle. And I don't know if modern science, or if there is a place with regards to modern science, that can help those who struggle with compulsive overeating or destructive eating. Because I don't think my eating is destructive anymore. I've been able to modify things, but as a diabetic, it's still, I mean, fasting is the one thing that works.
So, what is your perspective on what is happening in Afghanistan? You and I have come up with a lot of very different conclusions on a lot of stories, and I think it's because we just simply follow different. We have different sources. But what are you seeing? And I'm curious. I'm curious.
I feel like we are abandoning our friends. We're abandoning our friends. America is abandoning her friends to some awful, horrible monsters, and they're going to be hurt and they're going to be tortured, and that is really a sad thing that I see happening. And when a person, when a person fights beside you and you make them a friend, and then they agree to fight with you and they take up the cause, and then you leave them to get themselves to get them hurt. It is kind of sad. I mean, I am an American, and my country does do things that's not always that great. And this time, I feel like we're hurting. We've left people in worse positions, and we've abandoned our friends, and that is really sad for me. I'm more sad about the situation than I am angry. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that, but it's heartbreaking. And there's nothing there's nothing that I can say or do about it. I don't have any power. And I'm grateful that I live in this country, because those that don't, there are people that really live under true oppression, and really awful. And I don't know what else to say about that. That's one of the reasons why the main focus is on my diet and on my health, because I have no control about the situation. I just feel sad about it. Do you have any comment on the situation in Afghanistan, Joe?
I do, and it varies dramatically from where you're coming from. And I guess if you take the news at face value, like a lot of people do, that's an unfortunate thing. But if I've seen some breakdowns of the clips that are available, and it couldn't be more laughable. It couldn't be more of a staged joke, and it's disturbing, and I'll tell you one experience that really made an impact on how I viewed news. I have never changed since. I had already had a different way of looking at it at that point, but in 2002 I was living in Asia. I was in South Korea, and I went down to the DMZ. I took a road trip down to the demarcation zone, and between North and South Korea, right there on the border. And just kind of a very interesting place. When you look over into the beaches of North Korea, you see a few, maybe 4 or 5 military men holding guns, kind of pacing up and down the beach. But something happened while I was there, and I'll never forget it. And I'm glad it happened while I was there. And it was a report that there was heavy fire being sprayed over the DMZ by the North Koreans into South Korea. and there was this. The story made the cover of Time magazine. Yet the story, and in America, it was a big deal. Everyone was talking about. I was getting phone calls. What's going on? What's going on? And the whole thing was just a complete put up. There was nothing going on. South Koreans laughed at the time. They were just, and we were, remember, mind you, this was 2002. So we'd just gone, through, we went through, and I'm telling you, it just couldn't have been more dramatized and put into the American media like wildfire. But over there, it was just like, give me a break. There was absolutely nothing going on. So, it's when something like that happens, and all the way over there in Afghanistan, and we hear this real heavy story about the Taliban taking over. And I mean, it's just, I guess it's up to you out there to decide what to accept and what to take a deeper look into, I suppose. So I won't go as far as saying call him poppycock, but this is sort of poppycocking it. So that's just my perspective on it. And the videos, like I said, that I have seen that break down this. So I hope we spread this show around. I want people to be listening and watching us, but who knows? Anyways, that's what I got on that one. I know it varies dramatically from what you're saying. And you're muted, and I'm thinking, so to do this, to participate in this challenge, the weight challenge, not to change topics, but I'm going to change topics back. To participate, all you need is a scale.
Oh, Joe, the only reason I was muted,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The only reason that I was muted, I was just I was posting up the show, and I went on the show page.
I should probably do that too. I'm going to do that right now. I'll post it up.
And I did not want to. I did not want to. Whatchamacallit? I didn't want to. Because sometimes the sound goes when I'm not muted. Just a thought out there. Joe. It's funny you mentioned you were in the DM. Was it the 38th parallel, which is the Korean the dividing line in between North and South Korea. Hollywood has not tackled the Korean War. I think since the Moonies made the movie Incheon. I could be wrong, but we've had several World War II films, Vietnam. We've had a few on Afghanistan and Iraq. We had a World War I film, but nothing tackling Korea. And our Korean war veterans are not much older than our World War II veterans.
That is amazing. There are no movies that cover that period, huh? The war, the Korean War.
Joe, Hollywood has not tackled that issue since I think 1980, 1981, when the movie Incheon. I mean, Korea made a movie, but Hollywood has not tackled that issue.
And what do you see as, aside from, because movies, when we've covered this a million times, there's a fine line between entertainment, documentary, filmmaking, and propaganda, and there's this intertwining when you get into things like as big as, you know, specific wars and events in his story. What kind of cultural relevance and what would be the importance of revisiting that and keeping that these stories alive? And also, would there be people alive that would be able to talk about the movie, like as either consultants or in a documentary sort of format?
We still have Korean War veterans alive, and Korea was our first, America's first entry into a hot Cold War, and it was also the first war after Harry Truman had signed the executive order integrating the armed forces. And not all of the military forces were completely integrated, but it was the first time where black troops and white troops primarily. I mean, and they also had Asian troops as well. But that dynamic, and it was also a time when we had aerial dogfighting with jet planes, and I don't think we've had anything quite like that since the Korean War, because we were fighting the Russians in the air, we were fighting the Koreans, the North Koreans, and the Chinese on the ground, and the Russians and the Chinese and the North Koreans in the air. But primarily, we were fighting the Russian pilots. Russians were giving air support to the North Koreans and the Chinese. And it is an interesting side note of history. A lot of things happened, and I'm just surprised that we haven't entered into that.
Yeah, I wonder. You know, I do know a guy who he's actually won some major awards. Who works specifically on documentaries. I wonder if we talked to this dude. He may have some really good insight, and he's super nice too. I've been to dinner with him a couple times. He's a friend of mine's boyfriend, and I think I'm gonna contact her and see if she can arrange to have lunch with you, me, and him. You'd really like. He actually did a documentary on airplanes, really into airplanes, and did something that he did a lot of shooting over there at the Santa Monica airport, in fact. So let's see if I can, if you remind me, I'll try to arrange that. What's up, Darren?
That'd be really cool.
I'm excited that some of our old pals join us every once in a while.
You're
more than welcome to call in, brother.
Under our weight loss challenge, he did. I think he fasted longer than I did. Maybe he can tell us his experience about fasting and maybe some tips. I don't know if he wants to come and join us. If not, that's fine as well.
I've done great, by the way, this summer. I think I've lost about 9 pounds, and I've been. This is the hardest part ever. I'll tell you something, man. I went jogging. I decided I was going to get back into some light jogging, running. And it was a couple months ago now. And I remember I went out to the park, and first of all, I was scared. I was not confident. And I was a little bit kind of doubtful that I would have any kind of follow-up on it. So, and when I started running, that day, I remember feeling very awkward. I felt like I could fall at any time. Everything was hurting me. And halfway through, I stopped and sat down and stretched and made my way back to my car. But you know, that fire, whatever it was that got me to do that, it brought me back, and I went back again. And the second time I was jogging, I was way more, I won't say 100%, I was way more confident on my feet. I wasn't quite stronger yet, but I noticed a difference. And by the third time I went out, I made the same loop. I was just doing a loop around this quarter-mile park, and the second time, or by the third time I was out there, I was great. It was like my muscle memory really saved the day, and I've been doing it since. So it's been a good summer for that. But those first steps, man, they were a little worrisome at first. But now I feel a lot more confident getting out there and doing it. So it's definitely saved my summer as far as that goes. 'Cause I was really out of shape, man. Jelly legs.
Yeah, you know what, dude? I mean, and that happens with the best of us, man.
Oh, I'll tell you what inspired me, by the way. I was invited to go out and play some basketball with the same group of guys down there at I don't know if you know the park over there in Playa del Rey. Up again, it's right by the beach, and same group of guys have been playing for 15 years, and I hadn't played in a couple years, and I'm like, hey, I'll go out there and play. And I went out there, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, dude. And you can't. Basketball is not the sport to go and play to get in shape. You get in shape to play basketball. And not only was I embarrassed for myself, but there was one guy that was pretty vocal. He was shaking his head at me, and I left that park in shame that day. And that actually fired me up to start jogging. And so, we have to do some things that kind of scare us sometimes to motivate us. So Darren's driving right now. Okay.
Darren is driving, and Darren did fast as I did, and it's always good for your mind and your body sometimes to test yourself and do things like not eat. It's not unhealthy, and and my belief is our government and corporations will. Sometimes they will lie and they'll be dishonest, and you have to just
look at every item on the shelves that says sugar-free.
Yeah,
they can get away with saying sugar-free if they're not putting solid table sugar into their recipe. That's
they do even worse than that. Sometimes they'll say no added sugar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he made it for 4 days, and that's amazing. And you feel amazing. Your body, when you fast, your body does feel sharper. There's something about that hunger thing that makes you feel great. Anyway, I am getting really tired, and I think I'm gonna take a shower and head to bed, Joe.
24 minutes. That's it? That's all you got in you?
That's all it got me. You know, and I'm feeling tired. I want to end on a good note. I want to start getting up early and going to bed early. That's just me.
I urge everybody out there to look behind us here and read Piercing the Corporate Veil. I added that, Brian didn't. I added it for a reason, as a conversation starter. And I would like any comments, any thoughts, any practical applications and into what it could mean. What would I put in Piercing the Corporate Veil? Good night, Darren. But yeah, that's it for transparency and merit, I guess, for tonight.
And we're certainly going to go on the diet challenge. We're gonna ask people to, like, hey, because it's really, I think that America doesn't have really it doesn't have a malnutrition or an undereating problem. It has an overeating problem. It has an obesity problem.
No doubt.
And, you know what? We want to tackle that. You know,
Big time. Big time. We could do a whole lot of stuff on nutrition. I'm very frustrated right now when I go to the market and I look at the shelves and I look at the ingredients. I know what I want and I can't get it very easily. I've got to either pay a premium, go to Whole Paycheck and pay, spend all your money over there. But if you're just going to a market and you want to get by, maybe we can start working on some tips on suggestions. I see like what you do is you started with changing your snacks. That's an awesome idea. You just go work on one thing at a time.
But also let me add that this is a struggle for me as it is for many other people. Food is a struggle. And how we can basically, take that struggle and how we can make it better for our lives, because eat less, move more is certainly something much better for for most people. Some people need to eat more, but for the most part, we eat too much, and we just have to really get strong on that. Anyway, Joe,
yes,
I'm going to end it. Hey, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Like I said, we are primarily about the truth will set you free. If you're an ignorance is bliss person, maybe not the show for you. Anyway, so like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and also visit our website at transparencyandmerit.com. Thank you for listening.
Cheers.